We're the United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, January the 22nd.
And Lynn Morse's birthday.
It's my birthday,
Yes.
so I told
Happy birthday.
Dr. Mary, thank you very much. I told Dr. Mary Byrne, I said, at least I know what this day is. Sometimes I wake up and trying to figure out exactly what day it is, but today is January 22nd, and so we have a great show today. We are live at Acts Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, and we are a show that's trying to bring hope, and I hope that a lot of people have more hope today than they have in the last 4 years, because as I witnessed, Dr. Mary, that the inauguration, oh my gosh, I tell you what, the powerful prayers, the music, the smiles, the upbeat attitude, just the whole thing, all the special music, everything was just made you feel good. It made you feel better. It gave you hope. And that's what people have been needing for some time. And when Jim Whining and I put this show together, and we brought in Don Blackard, our first co-host, and what you and me are trying to still do today is bring hope and talking about issues and also solutions. So let's just jump right in. Last week, if you didn't see our show, you need to go back and see our show, and you can do that at any time. But we were talking about issues, important issues in 2026, and we're going to jump right in.
2025.
Well, 2025.
Going on to for sure.
To what we're going to be, what we're going to be seeing.
This is a long-term haul.
Yeah, to what we're going to be seeing in 2026, how we're going to solve them. The issues we had in 25 now are issues in 26. We're going to solve them. I believe that we really will solve a lot of the issues that people have been facing in this country and the world.
Well, I was thinking about that this morning because the inauguration was very inspiring and positive, that this cloud of darkness is going to be lifted. But what I was thinking is the book of Esther, what Esther was able to do with legislation, and I was thinking of all of Trump's executive orders that people are excited about. And what she and her uncle were able to do was to empower the people to fight for themselves. When Trump is getting Washington off our backs, it's not the end of the problem. What he's doing is releasing the people at the local level and in their states to fight for themselves. He's taking off the burden of Washington, D.C.'s oppression, but the actors that were holding us hostage from the Beltway are still acting at the state capitals. And we saw that with the passage of Amendment 3. So when the Supreme Court says, okay, this is not a U.S. constitutional level protected right, this is a state issue, then immediately the ACLU and all of their coordinating organizations went to the state capitals and got petitions onto the ballots to be pro-abortion, and in a very aggressive way. Mm-hmm. So I've talked to people in Kansas City who voted for Amendment 3 and then regretted it. They said we didn't really know what we were voting for. The speed of getting that thing on the ballot caught I think, a lot of people off guard because we were depending on the state legislature. Excuse me. I think I'm going to need water. I didn't see that coming. But we were depending on the state legislature to raise the bar with the number of signatures needed for a petition initiative.
And we didn't do that.
And it didn't happen.
We failed.
So that left it to the people to do the voting, and there wasn't enough time to educate them.
And there's other states, Mary, that has done
you.
something like that, where the people could still vote those type of issues into the Constitution. But we understand in Missouri that our Constitution is one of the largest constitutions in the country as far as number of pages.
And probably the most,
And honestly, it's diverse, it's got all kinds of stuff in
That's
there. And some of that stuff's not that important or good. And that's why for 2 years in a row in Missouri, we had legislators, particularly on the Senate side, that failed us.
that's right. Well, it became a patchwork quilt because it was the out-of-state organizations figuring out if we couldn't get a law passed through the legislature, we'll do it through the petition initiative.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot that does not belong in a state's constitution that is
Right.
there. But that's my point,
You're right.
is that it really is the people of God who have got to become informed and become active. You can't think of politics as something outside of God's will. When you read the scriptures, you can see God is acting in the leadership of the nations. In this country, the leadership of the nation is the people.
Right.
And they speak through their elective process. And if we're not participating in that, we're not acting as the rightful king of this country. And
Right.
that's what we're supposed to be.
Right. So we got two topics I want to start off with, immigration and education. I give you your choice. You are an expert, certainly on education, and that's been your life career and training and advocate up in Jefferson City and DC and everywhere else on education. So what do you want to talk about first? Immigration, education?
Well,
Because-
I've got education on the brain.
Okay, well, let's talk about education.
All right.
Because one of the things that I understand is, and I've believed it for a long time because I was on local school board for 2 terms, 6 years. I enjoyed that, but learned right away that some of the good ideas that myself and other businessmen had that had children in high school and elementary and junior high school at that time, we understood quickly that our good ideas wouldn't work because we couldn't do it because of our federal ties with education, what they tell us that we have to do, and we don't get money if we don't do that. And I was just, thing after thing for the first 6 months, I started quickly learning that, boy, we don't have any local control.
That's correct.
And
And
now
you and
I
I
think-
were both educated in schools. I think you were public school as
Right.
well. Prior to the formation of the U.S. Department of Education. We graduated from high school. We were
Right.
well educated, and
We're
it didn't
very-
take federal government to do that.
No. Now I think it may come back that way some because of what President Trump believes in, but we're going to have to be ready for it back home.
Okay. So yes, we do have to prepare to resume local control, but I can tell you that there's suspicious activity afoot in Washington, D.C., okay? Yes, Linda McMahon is the apparent Secretary of Education, all right? That position requires Senate confirmation. The other position that requires Senate confirmation is the Deputy Secretary of Education. And Trump tweeted out that he was nominating Penny Schwinn, the former Commissioner of Education in Tennessee, for that position. And he hailed Schwinn as being, having had the teaching experience that Linda McMahon didn't have. He also stated on his inauguration day, if Linda does a good job, she'll be working herself out of a job. I've always contended that that was true. But I will tell you, this isn't a Democrat or Republican problem. After the organization of the Department of Education Act was passed in 1979 to be implemented in 1980, it was a Republican chair of the in a Senate committee James Baker, as a matter of fact, from Tennessee, who said, I'm not going to entertain the dissolution of that department. Okay, Reagan got elected campaigning on that, and it was the Republicans in the Senate who thwarted that. Another thing that happened was Terrell Bell from Utah became the Secretary of Education. Terrell Bell was actually working hand in glove with George H.W. Bush, only to give the illusion that they were getting rid of the department. They shrunk the size of the department, but Terrell Bell arranged for the report called The Nation at Risk to be written and disseminated, and basically George Bush's campaign manager, who was James Baker, cornered him and said, you have to campaign on this report to win your second election, your re-election. Reagan did it, which meant his first messaging that we're going to get rid of the Department of Ed had to be tabled. In other words, he compromised that original campaign messaging, campaign item. But it was Terrell Bell and James Baker that forced him into that corner. He won re-election, but never got rid of the Department of Ed. And he didn't have the, you might say, political capital in the Senate to get it done, and he knew that. What that meant was when George Bush took over as president, he and Terrell Bell, who had worked together during the Reagan presidency, grew the department again. But the big thrust for the growth of that department and the expansion of the departments of education in the state came under Bill Clinton. And he threw so much money into state departments of ed that they became the hands of the federal government. And that's when you saw what you saw. Mm-hmm. So all of that happened after we were educated in public school. Mm-hmm. But the thing that doesn't get much discussion is that what happens when you have that centralized department in Washington is the lobbyists have an easy route to controlling the policies within that department and then use the money from Congress to get their agenda implemented. That's exactly what happened. The big player was the Hunt Institute with Common Core. And then Chamber of Commerce got behind it. Okay, so former governor of West Virginia, Virginia. Yeah, it was West Virginia. Anyway, it's definitely Governor Hunt. He established the Hunt Institute. And the reason it's important to know that is because in Missouri, our state legislators are still going to workshops organized by the Hunt Institute to get the Hunt agenda and force that agenda into our education policies. They're not listening to the people. They're listening to the lobbyists through these foundations and institutes and telling us what we need. When we keep saying back to them, no, we want local control, not foundation control. So that's why it's important to understand the key role the U.S. Department of Ed plays, the key role these corporation foundations play, and how they are competing voices with local school boards. And yes, they offer money. Once our departments of eds at the states take it, they start putting the agendas into policy that evaluates the school districts on how well they're implementing those foundation policies, okay? And that's how it works. We don't have any say. The people of Missouri don't have any say in our MSEP 6, Missouri School Improvement Plan, that is the accreditation standards for the districts. The ones who have the say are the Council of Chief State School Officers in Washington, D.C.
So, do you think, so
we have to get rid of it. That's the bottom line. We have to get rid of
we
it.
have to get rid of it.
But Penny
otherwise-
Schwinn, who is this nominee for the deputy secretary, when she was hired in Tennessee to be their commissioner of ed, she came in January of 2019. Bill Gates from the Gates Foundation immediately started funneling money with Governor Lee's blessing. Okay, nothing happens in a Department of Ed without the governor's blessing, because the Department of Education is in the executive branch under the supervision of the governor. The legislature can have plenty to say in the passage of legislation and holding the budget, okay? But it's the governor who has to sign any bill the legislature passes. And it's the governor who has direct supervision of the commissioner's activities, because they're in the legislative branch. And yes, we have a state board of education, but currently in Missouri, the one sitting in the president's seat on that board is also the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Kansas City. You see the conflict we have, all right?
Right.
They're not listening to us. We have to get rid of the U.S. Department of Ed so we can disperse the influence and the power of those lobbyists and the foundations from Washington.
Do you think that's going to happen in the next 4 years?
This is where I'm going with that. Penny Schwinn, and as a deputy secretary of ed, has already had a great deal of influence and experience in Tennessee implementing Bill Gates' agenda. Millions of dollars got poured into Tennessee by May of 2019, within months after she was appointed. When I looked at the National Assessment of Education Progress between 2019 and 2023, when she was commissioner, millions of dollars pumped in from the Gates Foundation, and the scores dropped like a rock. So you see lots of press, lots of splash about how much money is going in, how much good she did in making policy changes in Tennessee, but go to the student assessment scores. They tell an entirely different story. And now she's being nominated. And it's not Trump. Trump doesn't personally nominate these people. He's got a personnel committee that vets them, all right? But I've been in contact. I'm on a listserv with people, including people from Tennessee. And I said, it seems to me Penny Schwinn doesn't have policies very different from Lamar Alexander when he was governor in Tennessee. I said, change my mind. And they said, oh, hell no. She has to go. We're making phone calls trying to get her nomination rescinded. So my point here is, we are blessed to have a new presidential administration, but there are already forces afoot trying to sabotage that. If Penny Schwinn gets in, like I said, she's got connections to Governor Lee in Tennessee, is touting her. He's the one who took the Gates money. Okay, and so she's had a lot of experience, not with improving education, but with implementing policies of the external agendas. So where they say, you know, she's been touting vouchers and charter schools and all that kind of stuff, tell me where. That's not new. None of those programs are new. Where in this country has that shown an improvement in the student learning? Right? None of those programs are silver bullets. None of them are going to free you up. What's going to free you up is getting the federal Department of Education dissolved, passing state legislation that puts a barrier around local school boards from being influenced by non-human corporations that are considered persons. And that would include the Chamber of Commerce. Because it's the parents and the community, not these national and state organizations that should be influencing what you want taught to your children. And that's
Well,
why we got all these problems with DEI and all that stuff. It's not our agenda.
So we know what the solutions are.
Yeah,
We're going to have to pray
Yeah.
that we get those solutions.
That's right.
Otherwise, we're still in the era of education that it actually ends up being more indoctrination
Still.
than it does education.
so it means
So-
working at the
so-
local level to elect
and
a school
so-
board that understands they need to talk back to the state level. It includes voting for governors that are going to supervise members of their executive branch to be responsive to the people of their state, not the foundations that come into the state. And it includes, and here's my thing, that's why I'm going to Jeff City today. I'm going to visit with the chair of the Education Committee in the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay, because right now, 5 of the state board members' terms are expired. That means there should be an entirely new state board brought in. And he's the one who controls the confirmation process.
Okay.
Okay? That's what it takes. That's what you need to know, is what are the processes for making change and then getting involved in implementing them.
Well, I tell you what, it's extremely important, and that's why I was hoping that President Trump, with some of the comments he made while he was
Yeah.
running for office, running for reelection, that we would see that. Education is extremely important, and we've got to reverse what we've been seeing everywhere. And we're still more fortunate here, like in Missouri and some of the states in this country, but it's not perfect. And that's
Yes.
why local, and we know local is better. Making local decisions
Absolutely.
is absolutely better.
Yes.
Well, let's go to the next topic, immigration. That's one of the things, probably I would think inflation and immigration was 2 of the big issues that caused President Trump to win all votes, electoral votes, majority and popular votes. I think that those 2 issues were really sticking points and really tearing up our economy, tearing up our people, and immigration. He seems like he's from day one. Actually, they've been working on it since probably 30, 45 days prior to
Yeah.
him being sworn in. So do you have hopes that immigration, some of the things that we're going to do will be positive for this country?
I do, and I think appointing Homan, as the director of the project to locate and deport illegal immigrants, and yes, they are illegal. People say no human being is illegal. Quite true. That it's not the point. If you cross our borders and you didn't go through the right process, you're here illegally, okay? So there's a difference between the immigration of people from foreign countries who come into our country through the correct process, and those who are coming across at the invitation of people who want to use these people to destabilize our country. Are they pawns? Yes and no. Nobody forced them to come over. They were attracted to come. But yes, they're pawns because there's the people, they're basically enslaved and trapped by a bait to come into this country, and then there's an expectation that they will destabilize it. Even if they're given, in some countries like California, the right to vote, and they're not citizens. That's astounding, absolutely astounding.
Yeah. Well, and of course, a lot of people thought the more immigrants they could get over here that was illegal, get them in however they could get them in, it didn't matter to them. They were trying to get, I honestly, truly thought they at some point could make all those people, allow all those people to vote.
I think what's heinous is the child trafficking, though.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing. And of course, they don't want to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that was their ultimate goal, was just to try to get a number of people that would vote for them because they got over here, no matter what, they got over here into this country. And that would have been really tragic if those people would get to vote and have all the rights of a true U.S. citizen that did it the right way. Mm-hmm. And so
if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court just ruled that DACA, which President Obama had implemented with an executive order, is unconstitutional. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of crying and gnashing of teeth, mm-hmm. and people, making loud noises because they believe they have the right to stay. But according to the Constitution, once again, they've been sold a message by somebody who wanted to use that vote to control this country. I mean, they were pawns, yes, but also no, because they knew they were here illegally. And the fact that these children were innocent when they were brought here does not exempt their parents from knowing what they were doing. There's a real process involved. And if you go back and look at the motivation to destabilize this country financially, Cloud and Piven were the theorists. They were communist theorists, Marxists, who said what you need to do is overwhelm the welfare system. And when you do that, and you do it through an emotional appeal process, saying these people are in need, you're not charitable if you don't use the government to meet that need. And if we overwhelm the system with enough applicants to the welfare programs, we can break the budget. And it looks like they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's what a lot of this illegal immigration is about.
They've done a good job at it. So
Yeah.
last question on immigration. I mean, it appears to me that we've got states out there that have been sanctuary cities for these illegal people, and they're going to dig their heels into the ground. They're not going to go easy with these new changes. Mm-hmm. What do you think President Trump will do? Do you think he has the power to hold money from some of these states to force them to follow the new federal rules and things that we're trying to go with?
Absolutely. Money will be one of the tools, but not the only tool.
No. So I'm hoping that we stay strong, and the people that certainly come in the right way will continue to come in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made America great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what the original founding of our country was, all the different people. And we all know people of different nationalities and things like that. We all have friends that we know from church or business or just neighbors. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes our country so great. But we've got to do it the right way. We were being overwhelmed.
Very porous borders, and you have to understand that there were terrorists and enemies from other countries who knew entrance through Mexico was going to be easy. So you just go to Mexico first, and then you come into this country. Fentanyl and child trafficking, sex trafficking, were two big issues that, with porous borders, remain unchecked. But those, you have to understand the fentanyl map starts with the ingredients made in China, which are then taken to Mexico. The fentanyl is assembled there, and it's a cheap synthetic drug. You don't have to wait for opium poppies to grow,
Right.
right? You can. So this is deadlier, but that's not their problem. It's yours if you take it.
Right, right.
You know. But yeah, they come up through this porous border, and you know we're here in Springfield. We're on the I-44 corridor,
Sure.
right to that goes up to Chicago. So yes, we have a problem here with the drug trafficking. I-44 goes through St. Louis. That's one of the big cities. That's a distribution point, but nationally, a big distribution point is Chicago. So right here in the Midwest, we like to think of ourselves as the Bible Belt, but Mexico looks at us, the Mexico cartels look at us an entirely different way.
Right.
So here, it's very personal for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that, so whether it be illegal drugs or whether it be human trafficking.
Yeah.
I-44, when we've had programs on this before, our very first show that we ever did was on human trafficking with the Highway Patrol, other specialists. You know, one of the things that we learned very quickly and the viewers learned was the fact that especially around the Joplin area,
Yeah.
but it could be almost anywhere in Missouri with those main highways, boy, and several states adjoining each other. It's just a real problem.
I think another tool will be the wall will be built.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was
and
a
I think
a
they've already
tremendous
started
help.
building the wall, I hope.
Well, Biden was selling it for scrap.
Right.
You know, but I truly believe that that'll be another project that's resumed.
Yeah. So very good. Well, let's talk about something that I know both of us like to think about, but that they're going to do that I don't know if the government's ever done this for. Government efficiency.
The Department of Government Efficiency,
Yeah.
DOGE.
Have they? I mean, you followed maybe politics even longer than I have. Have we really ever had a department like that?
Well, departments are typically created through legislation. Don't forget, that's how the Department of Education was created. This so-called department is not created through legislation.
No,
So
it's the first time.
it's not really a department. It's a volunteer organization that calls itself a department. That's okay.
Okay.
And it's an advisory department or advisory organization. I'll call it an organization that President Trump is listening to. I think there's some good things that can happen there. One of the issues at once, and right now we were talking about it, the leadership in that advisory group was Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. Vivek Ramaswamy is now going back to Ohio, and he was not appointed as the senator to replace Vance, but he does have plans to run for governor of Ohio. At least that's the last thing I read. So he's now out of the picture. It seems to be entirely in Elon Musk's lap. He and Trump seem to have developed a close relationship, but Trump makes it very clear who's president. Elon, you might call him the first friend. He's looked at the dilapidated, archaic technology used in Washington, D.C. to run this country and promises to upgrade that. I think that's necessary.
Yeah.
The word is that AI is being used to do a sweep of the efficiency of the departments, and they are found wanting. That there's already been 1,000 pink slips issued to fire people within. So perhaps that's helpful there. My question is, when when so many of the government, Elon Musk has become wealthy off of government contracts from the U.S., what's the conflict of interest of having Elon Musk so close to Donald Trump and Trump saying, we're going to go to Mars, when it's Musk that owns SpaceX?
Right.
Okay, that's a problem. You can't have those conflicts
Well, I'm
of
hoping,
interest.
Mary, I'm hoping. I think every American, I don't care what party, you don't even have to have a party.
No.
I think every American thinks there's waste in the federal government.
I agree 100%.
And there's bigger waste there, because the bigger you get, there's waste in even families. Go back
Yeah.
and break it down to the family unit. There's waste. You can always cut something.
Yes.
But then go to, city governments, go to the county governments, go to the state governments. And then, my gosh, the federal government's the only one that can print money.
Yeah.
And they don't even have a balanced budget. They haven't had a balanced budget for years.
No.
Which that should be a requirement.
Well, they haven't even had a budget, balanced or
Yeah,
no. They
yeah.
just keep
No
doing
budget.
continuing
Yeah,
resolutions.
no budget. And-
I'm saying that this is
Don't you-
this
I'm
is an
hoping.
opportunity for
Yeah.
some good change.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you have to be careful that the processes that are put in place as checks and balances to be sure that everything is done for the good of the people, and that means putting it through a debate process, not just declaring this is going to be the way it is. Okay, that needs to be protected. And again, I'm all for. I do it. I'm a volunteer with my time and talent. I'm all for Americans volunteering time and talent and whatever resources are at their disposal to make this country better. And I applaud anybody, including Elon Musk, for doing that. I'm just saying there's also caution that needs to be observed so that there's not a usurpation of the Constitution and our processes of debate and discussion to put programs in place and ensure that once again, the government doesn't become a tool of a private entity. That's what I'm saying there. And I'll give you an example of what happened in education, again with Common Core. It was people in an organization called Achieve. Achieve was established under the Bush administration by Lou Gerstner, who you might recall was CEO of Nabisco and then IBM. And the idea is that business was going to use its time and talent to improve education. Achievement Partners had a person, Sue Pimentel, who was considered a literacy expert, who wrote the first American diploma program standards in English and math. Those standards were the foundation for the Common Core state standards. Sue Pimentel goes from Achieve Inc. and then founds Student Achievement Partners and becomes a consultant for spreading. She not only became the chief architect of the English language arts standards, she then gets herself in a position to make money by consulting about those standards. Okay? Achieve Inc. benefits because then they become the host organization for one of the assessment programs called PARC. There's only two that are developed for assessing the Common Core set of standards across the nation. One of them is PARC, and it was given to Pearson on a no-bid contract. Come on. And then Pearson, with this no-bid contract, contracts with Obama to write a book. This is back scratching going on, and that's how it's done through these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and that's how the people of the United States get cheated out of their voice, is by that kind of really is a collusion going on. And then we're told how good it is for us. And that's why Trump won. We are tired of Washington telling us what's good for us and them not listening to us.
Well, I think this is a start. Okay, we're going to talk about our sponsors, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. But our
Done a lot of
sponsors,
talking.
our sponsors, Brad Pistow. He's been a sponsor for several years with us. We really appreciate him. He is a certified fiduciary financial planner. He owns Trinity Insurance Financial Services in Ozark, Missouri, and he is one of the best in the entire country, licensed in several states, 12, 13 states. You can call him anywhere where you live. Call him 417-581-9222, 417-581-9222, and they will help you. He has a couple of books that he has written, and he gives you some free advice. Safe Money Matters is his first book, #1 best-selling book on Amazon on retirement planning, and Bulletproof is his second book about a year and a half ago. Those two books, you can get those free. You can get other information from him. If you live around Southwest Missouri, you can go see him in person, and those visits do not cost anything. He has associates all over the country because he speaks all over the country. January is a very busy month for him. He's probably somewhere right now this week speaking to some large organization, and he is a contributor to USA Today, Wall Street Journal, many other important publications, and I use him. A lot of people use him. He's made me money. I don't worry about running out of money before I run out of life. So I highly recommend him. Our second sponsor is Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. It used to be Youngblood Motor Group. It's still John Whittaker, and it's also Aaron Swanson, the general manager. Those two guys now run it. John Youngblood did own the dealership, and he retired. They are on South Campbell, 3838 South Campbell, Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri. They sell Nissans and Kias, new cars on one side, and they sell used cars across the street on South Campbell. And a lot of their used cars, I really like this because I may be buying one myself. My last 3 cars I've bought from Youngblood Motor. I'll be buying one from Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia, and I'm trying to maybe replace my 2020 Grand Cherokee Jeep, and this year, 26. And they sell certified cars. They sell these cars that have many checks, 100 plus check points, and that way, when you buy that car, you know it's going to last longer than just a typical used car will last before you start having expensive repairs and things like this. So I highly recommend him. Their phone number is 417-882-3838, 417-882-3838. So there's our sponsors, and we'll be looking for another sponsor or two this year. And let's go jump right back into this. So inflation. We talked about inflation as being one of the reasons why people voted for President Trump. They voted for him because it didn't get better. It was still really high during the election. Now we talk about energy. There's such a difference between the energy policy of President Trump and President Biden, and even people before President Biden that were on the Democratic side. I don't have anything against electric cars and stuff like that, except I guess I'm a believer in a hybrid car that is a gas and electric car, because that way I don't have to be charging the battery. It charges itself, and you don't have to be plug-ins. And we spent millions and probably trillions on this green energy deal, and we still haven't got anywhere. And God has placed all of the oil and natural gas and everything we need for hundreds and hundreds of years, and this is going to help inflation. As we make these changes in energy this year, I really believe that we're going to start seeing inflation go down and get back to a point where it's usually at.
That's right.
What do you think?
Well, when you're importing your oil
From your enemy?
from your enemy, you're funding your enemy, and you are increasing the cost of manufacturing in your own country, right? It's not just about driving your car, it's whatever product requires that oil energy to be created. When Biden came into office, the thing he did was shut down the pipelines into this country that were giving us oil and transporting it in order to buy oil from Russia. And then he depleted our reserves.
I don't know if we've ever I don't know. Do you think we ever filled those reserves back up?
Well, Trump's promised to do it, but what that does is weaken your military. Because if you are ever under assault and you need that energy for your defense, it's not there. The whole green energy campaign with bringing those windmills into this country was actually to feed China, because that's where we were importing that from, those products from. It broke my heart to drive across the United States from where we are to the West Coast and see all those windmill farms, because all I saw was money flying over to China, to the Chinese Communist Party,
Right.
that, controls manufacturing there. So I really saw that as trying to deplete the United States of its financial resources to fund our enemies. Will it be coming back? Well, that's one of the interesting things about Trump saying we're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. It's because Biden passed some order saying we can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico. And Trump is like, fine, we'll just rename it.
Right. And I like that.
Well, that's why he gets accolades for being playing chess on a 3D level, right? Mm-hmm. Is because it doesn't mean we're going to change any kind of treaty. We're just going to rename it, and every treaty's void.
Right.
And he pulled us out of the WHO, the World Health Organization.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, because that's where foreign influence again was getting our resources, and we were bowing to basically Tedros as a communist. He's from. He was known as a communist leader in his country, and we were surrendering our sovereignty to these policies when Bill Gates was one of the main funders of the WHO. So why are we surrendering our sovereignty to individuals who know how to play the game by using their money to control institutions that control us? Mm-hmm. Nonsense.
Yeah. Well,
so it's not just about energy, it's about all these other release from basically chains that globalists had got us into in order to bind us and weaken us as a country.
Well, so I think inflation's going to go down.
Yeah.
And my prediction is, and it's because of the energy and all the other policy changes are going to.
Yes.
We're going to run out of time. I know we've already run past time, but I don't. Talking to Jim Whining, our CEO, and Bishop, and just tremendous leader of Acts Ministry, he and I were talking the other day on the phone about. One of the things Larry Ballard has written a couple of books, and he's been on our show, and he listens to God. God actually communicates to Larry Ballard and certain people more than others, and I'm kind of envious of that. But Larry predicted some financial crisis and some really serious things that would happen. And I do want to mention, and then I want to get your opinion, and then we're going to have to stop. But because I'm heading to Jefferson City today too, so I've got meetings up there too. I got a board meeting tomorrow morning. But I do believe we still have some financial crisis times ahead of us. And part of it is Jim Whining was talking about there's a cycle of these great big business loans, banks and different things. And I believe he was talking about they run in 5-year cycles. And this is
I mentioned that last week too.
Yeah, you did too.
Developers do that when they finance the buildings that they're building.
And so we do, and there's a lot of people that's trying to get rid of the dollar as the dominant economic marker, so monetary marker. So what do you think about that? I mean, I want people. You do need to have a savings account. You need to have an emergency account. If you can invest in, if you can't invest in gold, because gold is a pretty high value commodity right now. Buy silver or do something. Talk to some financial advisors and be prepared, be ready, have food like you talked about, have a supply of food and water and things like that. Do not think just because we have a new president, and I think that we have a lot more hope than ever in a long time, do not think that everything will be perfect, right?
No, there's got to be a shaking up to correct what has been wrong for about a century.
Right, so be prepared.
And yeah, I think the Federal Reserve is going to have its comeuppance. And when that happens, because don't forget, the Federal Reserve isn't part of Congress. The Federal Reserve is an independent organization that basically dictates to us what our economy is going to look like based on interest rates.
Right.
And the only thing the president has to do with it is appointing people to their board of directors. But after that, there's no control. So if we're going to restore our economy, we're going to have to get rid of the forces that bind that economy. And I think that means we're going to see some history-busting activity, which means destabilization for a while. And yes, you have to prepare yourself for that. And one of the things I've seen a lot of articles saying if you have equity in your home, you need to use that to invest so you can make more money. And I say, no, no, you need a roof over your head.
Right.
All right. Be sure you are positioning yourself that you're not destabilizing your own family's shelter and food source while we go through what has to happen in order for a correction to take place.
Yeah. I think one of the best things that can ever happen to a family is when they buy a home and then when they finally get it paid off and you can stay there in that home and you've got that tremendously biggest asset that most people ever have.
Well, Shakespeare's credited with saying neither borrower nor lender be, but that actually comes from Proverbs.
Okay, very good. Hey, so enjoyed the show day. I hope our viewers got something out of our show. We'll probably change it around and have a guest next week, but we'll see you next Wednesday. And in the meantime, everyone's try to stay warm, stay safe, and be kind to someone. Let's start this year by doing something nice to someone.
Keep our country in your prayers.
Keep our country. Pray a lot. I pray a lot. A lot of our friends, I know Mary and Dennis prays. We in Acts Ministry, we are praying for the right things, and let's all stick together. Okay. Okay. We'll be back next Wednesday.
God bless.
God bless you.